Welcome to Yin Yoga Lifestyle. I am your host, Colette Darville. Cultivating our body's resilience and inner silence and its application to all aspects of your life. Let's become enlightened and enjoy the power of intuitiveness and creativity. You are listening to Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I am your host, Colette Darville, and this is Yin Yoga Lifestyle. So now let us take a deep meditative breath. Inhale, so. Exhale, hum. MERI KIMURA was introduced to yoga by her mother back in 2009. Her mother enjoyed the physical aspects of the power and flow practices and wanted to share the experience with all her daughters. But because of her life as a student at the Ontario College of Art and Design studying photography in Toronto, MERI's time in the yoga studio was limited to summers in Vancouver, going to early morning yoga sessions with her mother. As an aspiring artist, MERI has bounced between different mediums of all her life, starting with a love of photography from a very young age. She taught herself jewelry work, knitting, crocheting, weaving, and digital editing and design. She loves the tactile sensation of yarn and textiles, and just recently built her own hand loom to learn how to weave. Also, looking for more projects and techniques to discover and learn, MERI enjoys rainy days spent indoors with a nice cup of tea and her knitting close at hand. Now living in Vancouver full-time, she has steadily incorporated her yoga practice back into her life for the physical and health benefits. Her favorite positions are pigeon pose and warrior two. The pigeon pose for the stretching and dance-like aspect, and warrior two for the strength and balance. Yoga has become another stress-relieving practice that she looks forward to every week, be it yin or hot yoga. Welcome to Yin Yoga Lifestyle, MERI.
Thank you so much.
MERI, have you always been an artist, and what draws you to the artistic experience?
I have always been an artist. My whole family has dabbled, actually. But I was the only one interested in photography, other than my grandfather, who I don't remember very well. And I was given a Canon AE1 camera when I was really young, one of those like super manual ones. And it was so fascinating. I loved how it worked. I thought it was so interesting. And I apparently told my grandparents when I was really young that I was going to be a photographer when I grew up. Like not a dancer or an astronaut, but a photographer. And I was very adamant about that. I really loved the fact that it was a way of taking a snapshot and keeping it forever. So you could memorialize it and hoard it. And when something caught my eye, I could just take a photo and look at it over and over again. And it was a way of showing people my perspective and saying like, hey, here, look at this. Isn't this amazing? and as I got older, I started being really interested in street photography because it takes so much courage to go around and take pictures of strangers.
Yeah,
and
it actually
opens up
does.
A lot of dialogue. Yeah, like you just walk up to someone and just say like, hey, can I take your photograph?
Yeah.
And sometimes it would open up a lot of dialogue with certain people because I would just meet the most interesting characters on the street and with really unexpected stories. So that was really, really fun and really interesting. And I kind of feel like it's kind of like doing a hard yoga pose. So like tree pose, like I'm so bad at that one. I have a lot of problems with it, but I usually take a deep breath and I just go for it because talking to anyone new is exactly like that. You just have to have the courage to try and put yourself out there. And I feel like that whenever I'm in a yoga studio, just there's so many difficult positions and I don't know if I'm going to get it perfect, but you just have to dive in and do it and hope for the best and hopefully don't fall on your face, like.
But that's okay. That's okay because you do it to your own your own level of how you feel it should be perfect. So, um,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So it's all different. Um,
Hmm.
you studied at the Ontario College of Art and Design, very prestigious,
Yes.
and um, I had to say that.
Yeah.
Can you can you tell us a bit about you as an artist and why you decided to study photography?
One of the reasons I studied art at photography at OCADU was because I had an interest in becoming a photojournalist or a travel journalist because I was one of those children that used to sit and wait for the National Geographic to be sent to us, and I would cut out pictures and imagine myself in those places and taking those photos myself. So I thought this is perfect. Like that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. I'm going to be a photojournalist or a travel journalist and just travel the world and do something I love. And I thought that would be heaven. And then when I went to school, I started doing really intensive classes in light and perspective and color. And those were all super, super interesting. And it helped me in my other art practices later in life. But then as I was studying, I realized that if I made one of my passions work, then it would become work and not something that brings me joy. Well, because there's so many constraints working as a photographer, just like any other job in the world. And
Hmm.
for me, art is something to be free with, like something that's fun and freedom and life and color. So maybe if I was more bold and open about my work, I could have opened an art gallery. But I've always really found it difficult to describe my work in a way that people understand it.
Hmm.
Because like I would be in class showing off my project and people would be like, why did you take that photo? Or what kind of emotions do you want to invoke with this photograph? And I just shrug and I'm just like, it brought me joy. That's it. Like, it just made me really happy. So that's why I kind of study photography, but I never made it into a career.
Right. And you know that,
Hmm.
you will open a gallery at some point in
Yeah.
your life.
You
You
know,
will
yeah.
open that gallery and
Yeah.
we're all going to come and see you. And
Yeah.
your mother is going to be your PR person and she's going to just sell your work. Like you're
Yeah.
because mothers do that, right?
Yeah.
She
Exactly.
she
She'll
can
be
be the best
perfect.
she can be the best person to talk about your work if you're too shy
Exactly.
to.
That's true. That's
Right?
true.
You mentioned that you love tactile sensation of textiles. Could you elaborate on this?
Well, as many people know who know me, I'm super tactile. So I love hugging people and cuddling up to people. And when I meet someone new, I kind of usually go in for a hug rather than a handshake. And when I was sick at home in middle school, my mom was knitting something, and I thought that was super fascinating. Like she just took a piece of string and took needles and made a piece of clothing, and I thought that was so awesome. And so she taught me how to knit. And then quite a few years later, my sister was pregnant with her first baby, and my mom started crocheting. And again, so interesting, like taking a piece of yarn and making something that you can wear. Because and so I was kind of just like, oh my God, like I could do this myself. This is so cool. And I love little fiddling things with my hands. Like I'm in high school, I made jewelry, and I like playing with clay and stuff. So something tactile like this was just perfect, right up my alley. And so, and anytime something's knotted up, like headphones or a necklace or something, everyone would always ask me to untangle it just because I love doing stuff like that. So I was like, yarn is perfectly up my alley. So and I love the feel of it, just like silky and fuzzy and soft. And there's so many different textures to yarn. Like I go to a yarn shop and I just touch everything. I'm just like, ooh, what's this feel like? And what's this feel like? And I just think it's so awesome. So, yeah. And then once you make it into something, the texture changes again. Like it feels different from just like string. And so I just love all aspects of it. So I like making things for friends, mostly babies because they're so fast to make, like because they're so small.
Right. Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, exactly. It's like you finish the project so fast. It's great. But yeah, and then around last year, I saw on Pinterest because I'm a huge Pinterest nerd. I saw someone hand weaving on a loom, and I've seen videos and stuff of it before, but I didn't realize you can make a hand loom, like something that sits in your lap, and you could do it at home. And I thought that was fascinating. And I was like, oh, I have all this yarn, and I can make my own loom. And so I started doing that too. And I started making wall hangings. So
Wow.
like just, yeah. And so but it's not as fast as knitting or crocheting. So I kind of stopped doing it, but I feel
Mhm.
like I should get back into it. And so, and like,
That's almost like
macrame.
in that's almost like installation work,
I know, right? Like it's
right?
really cool. And I actually made a much larger hand loom, which doesn't fit in my lap, but I have to start actually using it again. But like there's people like that are in the macrame, the knotting of the strings, but I haven't actually found the right string to do it, like nothing that's easily accessible. So I haven't gotten into that yet, but I
Yeah.
wish I would. But sitting with a cup of tea in my like with my yarn is just so stress relieving. I love it. So rather than going home and having a glass of wine, I go home to my knitting or my next crochet project, and that's just nice and
So
relaxing.
sounds so it does. It sounds so relaxing.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What are your favorite subjects to photograph? We're going to come back to the photography now.
Hmm.
Um, what are your favorite subjects, and what is the subject or place you would most want to capture through your camera lens?
So, like I said earlier, a lot of my work during university was focused on street photography and
Mhm.
fashion photography. So, it's something I've dabbled in before, and it was really nice to focus on that during my classes. So all my classes that I had, that I was learning like light and composition and perspective, they were all my favorite ones. They were really,
Wow.
really interesting. And I had a project once where I had a friend run around the art studio and I just took photos of her. I kind of just followed her around and I would set up lights and we would find cool shadows and angles to take photos of. And um, just taking photos of her moving around and throwing her body and throwing things actually, it made for some really really awesome photography like photos, like the
Yeah.
line of her arm or the lift of a leg, like all those lines were just so gorgeous, especially if you have it as a black and white photograph. Like take all the color away and just concentrate on the shapes and the light and the shades, and it was just so gorgeous. And then street photography, it made me feel like a little bit like a paparazzi person. It was kind of fun. Um,
Hmm.
but I made friends with like a lot of people and like so many random people I met on the street. And I just got to sit and people watch, which was super meditative. It's just you watch people go about their day and imagine what kind of person they were. It was super interesting. And I would kind of be like, oh, that person's running. Like, I wonder where they're going or they're late for something. Um, so yeah, that was also really, really fun. In the fall, I would walk through parks in the quiet and take landscape photography, and take close-ups of plants and flowers. And that was also really nice and quiet and meditative. And that was something I really loved to do also. It was hard to do when I was in Toronto because it's so busy there, but I would try to find a quiet spot and just walk and look and take photographs. And that was something I really loved to do, also. But just, put
Yeah.
music on, walk, take random photos. It's kind of like being in a yoga class.
That's what I was
Um,
thinking.
yeah, right. It's so meditative and quiet, and you just kind of do your own thing, and you just have to concentrate on the next thing, and then do it at your own pace, and breathe, and look. And that was just my favorite. It was just so nice, not to have to talk to anyone and just do what you love and do what you want to
Yeah.
do. And
Yeah.
then I would look at my photographs later on a computer, and it was just so satisfying, especially when they turn out so much better than planned.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I dabbled in a lot of different things, but like landscape and street photography, that was definitely my favorite.
Wow. It's
Hmm.
the photography or fine arts in general. It can sometimes be very solitary and introspective as a career choice, or even as a passion. Are
Hmm.
you and you're such a people person. Did
Yeah, yeah.
you so are. Did this
Yeah.
influence your current career decision? Because you love your arts and your photography, but you're in a very demanding position where you're dealing with a lot of people right now.
Yeah, I am. And I love the people and the community of where I work. It's where I went to school from middle school through to high school, and I
Mm.
graduated from here. And it's where I met my partner. And it's where I started everything. So when I think of my photography,